Good evening, everybody. My name is Maria Edelberg. I'm the Executive Director with the Delaware County Intermediate Unit. Welcome to the Community Forum. I'm just going to do some housekeeping, and then I'm going to turn it over to the Board President. Today, we have the luxury of introducing Dr. Yamil Sanchez. And what we did, as everybody is aware, we solicited questions from the community and the staff. So the questions we grouped into 15, and it's from you that we're going to be asking Dr. Sanchez tonight. So we have an hour to conduct our community forum. And then afterwards, the board meeting, I believe that there's going to be a reception in the auditorium. So you're not here to hear from me. You're here to hear from the future superintendent of the Southeast Elko School District. At this time, I want to introduce Ms. Cherie Monroe, Southeast Elko Board President, to do some introductory remarks.
Good evening. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My fellow board members, esteemed members of Southeast Elko community, and distinguished guests. I stand before you today with great enthusiasm and pride as the Southeast Elko Board of School Directors unveil the culmination of the intensive search for district's next superintendent. Since October 2023, we have embarked on a journey to identify a leader who will guide our district to a future of excellence and success. Our commitment to be transparent and community engagement has been a cornerstone of this search process. We began by reaching out to the community, conducting a comprehensive survey and hosting focus groups to understand the aspirations and expectations of our stakeholders. The invaluable insight provided by you, the members of the community, have served as a guiding light throughout this journey. To further ensure a thorough and thoughtful selection process, we established the Superintendent's Committee consisting of all board members, which played a pivotal role in providing input and direction. This collaboration effect has been instrumental in shaping our vision for the future leader of the Southeast Elko School District. Working in tandem with the Delaware County Intermediate Unit, we received a significant number of applicants, reflecting the high level of interest in the esteemed position. The search committee meticulously evaluated each candidate, inviting 11 promising candidates for the initial interview with the Southeast Elko Board of Directors. Through a vigorous process, 4 candidates emerged as standout individuals, advancing to the second round. And finally, 2 remarkable individuals reached the pivotal of our consideration in the final round. Today, it is my pleasure to announce that we have found an exceptional candidate who embodies the qualities and attributes we saw in our new superintendent. Dr. Yamil Sanchez has distinguished himself throughout the rigorous process and has emerged as a finalist candidate for the position of the Superintendent of Schools for Southeast Elko School District. Dr. Sanchez brings a wealth of experience, a passion for education, and a commitment to excellence that aligns seamlessly with the aspirations of our community. We are confident that Dr. Sanchez will lead our district with dedication, integrity, innovation, and propelling us towards even greater heights of educational achievement and community engagement. I bring to you Dr. Yamil Sanchez.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I want to start out by first saying thank you to our board president, Ms. Cherie Monroe. Thank you to Rebecca, Harry, and the rest of the board members for this invitation to come and join the Southeast Elko family. I want to also give thanks to Dr. Maria Edelberg, also to Mr. Salerno from the DCIU for the great work he did behind the scenes, in front of the scenes to conduct this search. Your leadership throughout this process is very well appreciated. Finally, thank you to the students who are here, especially those students who approved my outfit tonight. To the families, the staff members, administrators, thank you for spending your evening to learn a little bit more about me and what I hope to bring to Southeast Elko. Before I start, I do want to show a 1-minute, 40-second clip to ground us, to be able to share with you a little bit about who I am.
From rags to riches, or really. I remember hearing the floor creak, the hole on the door, and the adjacent wall used to run a link chain from one to the other, serving as our lock. And the padlock that would keep us safely locked in the house. Or really. I remember the raindrops falling on the tin roof, and then in the house. The pots and pans we laid out to catch the water seeping through the holes of that tin roof. And not feeling like we were members of an impoverished community. Or really. I remember the tin tub used to wash clothing at times, and at times for my bath. The roller washer machine, so simple, but regularly a trap for my sister's fingers to be pinched. Both ways to keep us clean and looking pristine. Or really. My hope is that wooden house, the tin roof and bucket, the roller washer machine are not seen as symbols of despair. My biggest hope is that people recognize that, like me, great families, intelligent children, and caring adults live in local communities that resemble my humble beginnings.
I created that video 10 years ago. I was part of a year-long fellowship to learn about the collective impact model. I was hand-selected to join 5 other executive directors to go through that year-long learning. And one of the lessons was on storytelling, being able to deliver a message to the masses. And that's a message that I carry because that's who I am. And that's one of the reasons why I want to be at South Delco. Oftentimes, students, young people are judged because of the zip code, the community, or the color of their skin. And I think it's really important that we learn, we help those individuals see the potential that exists in all of our students. One last thanks. I want to thank my family for being here. Another reason why I am choosing South Delco is because there is a big contingent of my family that lives 20 minutes from here in Northeast Philadelphia. So my brother, my sister-in-law, my niece and her children, thank you very much for taking the time to come. I want to thank my mother, who many of you have already begun to see in some of the events that I've been to, Iris, and also my sister who came from Reading to join me. And also special thanks to Dr. Raquel Yinks. She is a commissioner with the Pennsylvania Human Relations Council. I served the PHRC for the last 43 years. I don't know under how many governors she served, but she is a beacon of hope and change, someone that I see as a mentor and someone that I go to as I do work in our communities to make sure that young people, especially young people of color, are treated with the utmost respect. So thank you all for being here.
Okay, so let's start with some of the questions from the community. We'll just dive right on in. So the first question, in addressing the academic standings of the district, what strategies and initiatives do you plan to implement to improve and enhance the overall academic performance across all grade levels? And within such a plan, what special subjects do you believe need to be in place? And how would you evaluate what is currently being done?
Thank you very much for a very layered and wonderful question. But as I prepared for the 3 rounds of interviews, I did extensive research on the district. I'll share this now, and this will be probably one of the characteristics that people were like, wow, this guy really did prepare. I watched every board meeting that was held from December 2022 to December 2023, every special meeting that was held. There were over 84 hours of video that I watched to be able to get to know the district. I read through the comprehensive school improvement plan from beginning to end. I studied the APHS, ATSI plan, also looked at data that's available by PDE, PVOS data, to be able to get to know the details, the deep details of this district. And obviously, as the superintendent, one of the key responsibilities is academic leadership in partnership with my cabinet. But ultimately, the responsibility sits on my shoulder to make sure that we're making academic gains. In doing so, I noticed a couple of strategies that I would look to grow, or to make sure that all the resources that could be connected to them are also added. So in the comprehensive school improvement plan and also in the ATSI plan, but a need that we need across the district is to make sure kids are coming to school. Attendance is pivotal in order for us to be able to make academic gains. So that's a foundational issue that needs to be addressed. So I look forward to joining the district, to learning in greater detail what is it that you're doing. But there are resources that I've already started to reach people that I started reaching out to, and resources that I started identifying. Many years ago, I used to be on the board of CIS, Communities in Schools. Communities in Schools is an attendance support dropout prevention program. It's research-based and it's across the nation. So I moved to the Lehigh Valley and I joined the board there for that CIS. Ironically, in my next move, I wasn't a board member, but I became a funder. While working for United Way, I helped fund that organization so they can grow their program within the Reading School District, which is my current school district. The executive director reached out to me last week when he found the news that I will hopefully be joining this district and has already offered the services of Communities in Schools of Eastern Pennsylvania free of charge, as they now have a federal grant to be able to grow their program. So that's an example of how I would look to grow the attendance efforts. Another piece that I saw in the plans that I read was the professional development that's being offered to teachers. And one of the specific professional development, I believe it's around direct instruction, which I think it's a great technique to use when you're delivering social emotional learning. However, there are other research-based good practices that would benefit the district, especially if we have a model of block scheduling at the high school. Lecture for 80 minutes may not be the most appealing way to teach students. So it's important to have different modes of teaching at your fingertips to be able to deliver instruction, along with looking at PD, which, by the way, when I say looking at PD, it's not central administration looking at PD. It's engaging with teachers to have conversations about what is it that they feel they need. It's making the PD experience individualized. If I'm a tenured teacher with 12 years of experience, I may not need to sit in the same PD as someone who just started a year ago needs to be sitting in. So we would need to have conversations to be able to figure out what that PD plan. One piece that I will feel strongly in including is coaching. And there are two types of coaching that I'm referring to. First is peer coaching. I think we have experts and teachers. I saw you. I saw how passionate you were in those meetings. And I started doing some research with some individuals that used to work in the district. So there's great talent here that we need to figure out how to tap. Administration needs to figure out how we free you up. How do we compensate you to be able to share your learnings, your skill set with maybe some of the younger teachers? And then the other mode of coaching would be through a third party. It's often better received when it's an outside person or a peer giving you feedback instead of the same administrator who's doing your evaluation. So that would be the second initiative that I would look to develop, grow, to be able to help make a change in the academic goals of the district. The last piece that I saw, and again, this is from an outsider looking in, so I have a lot to learn. One of the things that I didn't see was a really good articulation of a vertical articulation of the curriculum, especially in math. When I looked at test scores, unfortunately, one of the sore spots that I saw was that there's a 5% proficiency level for our Keystones math, algebra. We've got work to do. And again, it would be my job with the administration to figure out how do we bring teachers together from all the different grade bands to have conversations about how do we articulate the skills and the knowledge that they need to know to do better in the Keystones algebra exam. One other piece that I would look to address, find out more, because it wasn't obvious, was specials. So I was the head of school for Kuumba Academy Charter School. Kuumba is one of the Kwanzaa principles, which stands for creativity. We had a kindergarten to fifth grade charter school, 500 students. It was the top performing school in the state of Delaware. And the philosophy behind that was because every student was exposed to arts every day in every class. So you either had a special, whether it was dance, theater, voice, visual, performing arts, and then the subject teachers wove in the use of arts in their teaching style. I'm not suggesting we become a Kuumba, but I do suggest that we look at and make sure that our kids are being exposed to the arts. There's research that shows how the exposure to the arts and involvement with the arts helps with academic gain. So I'm looking forward to peeling the layers back when I come on to district to hear directly from students and teachers about what is it that's happening and isn't happening as it relates to the arts. As a form of my leadership is to decentralize, meaning Dr. Sanchez and my peers from central office won't be sitting in an island alone making decisions about what's going to happen in our academic program. So if I am the successful candidate, all teachers, please be ready, because I heard it and I read it in your responses to the survey, how you want to have more involvement. I will be tapping on your shoulders, asking to join the table. Now, it's difficult, and we have to figure out how we provide time. And often that becomes even more difficult when we're short-staffed. So we have to be creative as to how we make that happen. But there will be 2 committees that I will be established. District-wide committee that will be focusing on improving the academic results of the district. The first is the Knights Academic Advisory Council. Those will be the individuals that will be looking at data, that would be regularly looking at curriculum, that would be doing data walks for the community, for their peers, including parents. That committee will include students, parents, teachers, administrators. It would be a district-wide committee that on a regular basis is taking a look at how we're doing. What are our needs for professional development? What are our needs for curricular materials that we need to buy? What did the results say? And then be responsible, be capable of turning that information around to the rest of the Southeast Delco family. The second district-wide committee will be a social emotional learning leadership group. So I know that that's something that's being implemented. It was written into either your comprehensive plan or your ATSI plan. But it's important that SEL is owned by the community, not just teachers. So I'm not sure how it's being rolled out here, but that opens up the door for parents to have a true, authentic opportunity to engage in our building. We can train high school students on how to deliver SEL and then walk alongside of teachers when doing SEL lessons. That becomes an opportunity for us to bring in police and law enforcement, train them on how to conduct SEL lessons and be able to co-teach those pieces with you. Becomes, the more adults that you have in the classroom, the better that is because you have smaller ratios. And here we're able to help build relationships with groups that are often asking and offering, but we don't really find an authentic way to do that. And that is one way. There's lots for me to learn. Again, I started by saying this was from an outsider looking in. So one of my first assignments for myself will be to do an academic audit of what's happening with curriculum. And that means Dr. Sanchez, I was gonna say my first name, Dr. Sanchez having one-on-ones with students, having one-on-ones with paras, with teachers, with the special ed department, with the building administrators, to be able to collect data and then report back to that advisory committee what I've learned. So, thank you.
Great, thanks. That's a lot. What is your perspective on supporting teachers within the district, and what measures do you plan to implement to enhance teacher support?
So, students first and most important educator, really their parent, their family, their caregiver. But when they walk into the building, the most influential individual in a child's academic success is their teacher. But we have to figure as administrators how we provide ongoing support for them. And that's a diverse type of support. So obviously professional development, and you're gonna hear me talk about PD all the time. I will figure out how we get more minutes, more hours of PD, not only for teachers, but I ran the 9 operational departments in my district. Food service is getting PD. Administrators are getting PD. So we will make extensive use of the time to make sure that you're being given the professional development that's appropriate and needed for you to be able to fulfill your responsibilities. Coaching, I've already underscored that before. It's going to be central to how I support teachers, whether it's peer coaching, compensated peer coaching, or external peer coaching. We need to make sure that your own social emotional needs are being met. Teachers are asked to deal with a whole lot more than they were ever asked to deal with before. Not even just post-pandemic, but mostly after the pandemic, we were seeing behaviors in our buildings, in our classrooms that no other teacher has seen in the past. You yourself take that in. We have to figure out how we fill your vessel. You can't serve from an empty vessel. So there are active efforts that I would take to make sure that you are a whole, that you are taking care of your own social, emotional, mental health needs. And that's from providing you information to be able to create the workspace that you feel good about coming to work. You feel like you're being heard and you're being supported. And how would I do that? I am the Assistant Superintendent of Operations for the Reading School District. It's the 4th largest school district in the state of Pennsylvania. There are 2,300 employees in 23 different buildings. And I go through those buildings every other day. So for those of you who have yet to see me, you will see me. For those of you who have maybe already have seen me, prematurely, I started making sure that people knew my style. I showed up here unannounced. I had the pleasure of meeting the girls cheerleading coach. If you're here, please say something. I got to see the boys play a doubleheader that day. Then I traveled to Kennett last Tuesday, got to see and meet the boys basketball team, parked next to their van. They were the last one. 40 minutes after the game was done, I waited till they got out, made sure I introduced myself. And then this past Thursday, I traveled to Chester, made sure I gave the same type of love to the female team. So I got to see the JV team win a game. And then I traveled to the board meeting. Again, not expected, but that's my style. So I'm wearing a suit today because this is a professional setting. I won't always wear a suit. You'll often see me with my bag and my laptop in there, in your classroom, in the hallway, in the library. That's my job. It could be done virtually and anywhere, but I would want to be in the school. So part of my commitment to teachers is that you will see me in your building at least once per week. In the district that compares to the one, I'll probably be more than that. So hopefully you don't mind having the superintendent sitting in the back of your room, watching your lesson, helping you if you need help with an extra set of hands. I'm a certified chemistry teacher. So for those of you who teach sciences, I'd love to be in your classrooms to help with your lab. But I'm also bilingual. So if you have students who speak Spanish, I could be your translator for the day. So expect to see me there on a very regular basis. I will respect the lines that exist for how you report things. So we all understand that there's a CBA that we have to follow, but you will have the ear of the superintendent. And I won't jump you. That doesn't mean you're jumping to me. Once I find out of an issue, I will direct you to the right individual. And if that individual doesn't respond, then I step in.
Yeah. As superintendent, how might you lead challenges associated with the overcrowding of special education students at different grade levels within a school?
That's an interesting question because as I did the research, one of the things that I read was the annual enrollment report that the district submits to PDE. And if I remember correctly, the last 3 years, special ed numbers have decreased. And I made it a point to highlight that during their interview because our numbers are quite the opposite, where they're jumping up at my current district. And I believe it went down 5 percentage points between the last two school years. So if there is overcrowding, I will need to peel back the layers and figure out why is that the case when we're reporting that there's a fewer percentage of students that are identified with special needs. So it could be that we are short-staffed and that's creating some of the overcrowdedness. Or it could be that we have positions that haven't been filled. So I would need to have conversations with the special ed department and also conversations with the HR department to be able to share with me a position control that lets me know how many positions are open, specifically how many special ed positions are open, regardless of what the situation is. As it relates to students with IEPs, we need to make sure we're meeting their needs. So we have to figure that one out right away.
Thank you. As superintendent, how would you determine the effectiveness of the business finance department? The key area would be to ensure timely and accurate payment to staff and all necessary required financial statements.
So another area that I will have to do a lot of research when I come in, and some of the research has already been done. So every district has to complete financial audits by third party. I will be doing my homework. I see where Mr. Butler's at. What I probably asked for the last 5 years of financial audits just to get a background and make sure that we have a true picture of what our financial condition is. But to be able to answer that question, the financial audit really wouldn't be addressing that. There are different types of audits that can be done to see if the form and function, if the operations of a district or an organization are working properly. And that's an operational audit where a third party can come in and investigate, do we have the right technology? Do we have the right procedures to be able to make things happen? So I would need to request an operational audit. There's another audit that would connect to this type of work. It's an internal audit. We sometimes don't see our own mistakes. You can conduct your own internal audit, but in this case, I would ask a third party to come in and see, do we have the correct internal controls? So when someone is hired, that's often a board doc issue that gets put on the board doc, but someone from either who is responsible for that has to transfer that information to payroll. And that communication is not always automatic. There are systems that exist to make sure that happens. As it relates to making sure that we're responsible to taxpayer dollars, there are internal controls that are really important to make sure we're safeguarding dollars that are supporting our district. Another example for that is when someone wants to buy something, do we have the right signatures? Do we have the right backup? In my district, if there is no backup, meaning a quote or a quote, for example, that PO is automatically canceled. And then there are 3 layers before it gets to a point where a check will be cut. So to be able to minimize, and just because we go through those audits and we make changes doesn't mean we don't make mistakes. These organizations, these offices are run by humans, and there's human error in lots of the things that we do. But there are some operational mechanics that need to exist. There are systems that can make the lives of the people in those offices a whole lot easier and a whole lot error-free.
Okay, so this is a question, different parts. I think you're getting used to that through this process. How would you evaluate current building usage and function, including the administration building, to determine if there are any cost saving, needed improvements, or a need for a new facility? How would this be communicated to the community? And how would you communicate opportunities for cost saving and or a cost?
So I'm going to split that question into 2 parts. I think I can group them. I'm currently actually working alongside of the CFO to be able to conduct our own facility studies similar to an audit, financial audit. But facility studies is when somebody comes in, takes a look at the buildings that you have, bases the needs that you have to make sure that there is a match. And see if there's a way for us to maximize savings by either changing the bulbs that we have, or maybe even closing down a building. In a district that I'm currently in, that's not going to happen. Our population has been growing. There's also safety reasons why there are different types of buildings that exist in the district. We really wouldn't want to run regular business operations out of our high school or out of one of our elementary schools where there are lots of either sales individuals or other visitors that are going in and out of buildings. So the short answer for that is that we would need to do a facility studies. As it relates to communication, like I said, I watched every single board meeting, every single special board meeting, and every voting meeting that you had last year. And I saw that there's opportunities for a number of things. And one is that the superintendent is given the opportunity to report out. I will be grabbing that opportunity to be able to give these type of reports. So it's not just an opportunity to report to the faculty, staff of the district. Those are board meetings for the community, to our taxpayers. So if I have some mic time and there is an update to be shared as it relates to taxes or to buildings, it would be appropriate for me to be able to share at that point. One of the other things that I observed in communications is one of my departments that I'm responsible for. I invite you all to go visit readingschooldistrict.org and check out our website. There is a great opportunity for us to better use our website to be able to communicate out to families. There is even a greater opportunity for us to use social media to be able to communicate to families and community. So we regularly do that. It's a really scientific process that I had difficulty seeing when I was researching, trying to get information from the website and from your different social media platforms. So there are specific sites that are used for different, depending who your target group is. We would be using those social media channels appropriately, depending what the message is. And then the last piece, and this is, I am sharing this with you, this is who I am. I will be doing community conversations. And often a new superintendent comes in and that's something they do. They want to talk to the community and then they disappear. I don't. So I will be part of the community in lots of different ways, whether it's visiting a church, whether it's being at the supermarket, setting up a table with an HR person at Walmart, whether it's going to the diner that I just came from. I will be regularly seen in the community and available to our residents to ask questions. I will have formal community conversations on a regular basis. I don't have a calendar for you all yet, but it would probably happen at least twice a year, if possible 3 times a year, where I'm formally inviting community to come and talk. And it won't be in the schools. So English is my second language. I've learned from personal experience that sometimes schools are not a fun place for parents to come to because they may not feel welcome, because they just may be tired. And to think that they're going to go across town to get to the school is not feasible. So I will make myself available in the community.
Thank you. You talked a little bit about this in your opening, but what motivates your desire to work here, the Southeast Elko School District? And what is your mission and vision for the district? Can you address your commitment to being here long term? And also, there's been some talk that were you the superintendent or the superintendent of Reading?
Okay, that one's a long question. Motivation for being here. I'll start by saying that I'm ready. I have a bachelor's in chemistry, a master's in secondary education, a doctorate in curriculum and instruction, and then 12 years later, I decided to go back an MBA. I needed that to be able to secure my superintendent's letter. I served as a teacher, building and administrator, and for the last 4 years as the assistant superintendent of operations, overseeing 9 operational departments, equity, communications, food service, transportation, IT, transportation, and I'm forgetting my last 2, but you get the point. In addition to being responsible for the operational departments, I had a dotted line to all 23 principals. So I then assisted the other 2 assistant superintendents that were specifically charged for leading the academic program. So it was not my direct responsibility, but I sat at teaching and learning meetings. I met with principals alongside of the other assistant superintendents to help them with their academic responsibility. So I am ready. I've worked as a director of youth development program. I've done development work, and I know that a lot of the work that I'll be doing at the very beginning, especially with Mr. Butler, looking at you, Mr. Butler, we're going to become best friends because we're going to figure out how we make progress to be able to sustain some of the things that are needed. Great decision that the board just made a few days ago. It's wonderful. We've corrected teachers' pay. I appreciate them doing that before it started. We need to figure out how we sustain that. So my experience outside of the formal K-12 will benefit and help me be successful in this role. In the survey that the DCIU conducted in the focus group, there were 4 characteristics of the districts that stood out, that are strengths of the district, that match who I am and why I want to be here. Number 2 and number 3 were related to the size of the district and the location. So I shared a little bit about the location. I went to Villanova right down the street. I used to teach in Northeast Philly, and I have family that lives 20 minutes away from here. That's the reason why this location is ideal for me to move into this position. The size, I'm going from 17,800 students to 4,200. A high school with about 5,000 students to a high school of 1,200. You have 4 first through 8th grade buildings that mirror each other. When we try to pilot something in any of our elementary schools, and there are 13 that range from 200 students to 1,000 students, it makes it difficult to really be able to scale up. This is like a speedboat compared to a big, hunker ship, where if we try something in one of our 1 through 8 building, we can then hopefully scale it up in the other buildings. That's exciting to me. That lets me know that this is a place that I can really impact and make change. The demographics. So I'm sure if you've realized, but Yamil Sanchez Rivera de Fred Rosario is not your typical name. I want to be in a district where students see me in them. I purposely looked to make sure that this was a district, before I even applied, that had predominantly students of color. So as someone who only had 2 teachers of color his entire career, I recognize the responsibility that I have for young people to be able to see themselves in me, to be able to walk into a room and say, wow, if Dr. Sanchez is our superintendent, I could be a superintendent, or I could be a lawyer, or I could be a teacher. Because often, especially in education, those role models don't exist, and I'm testament of that. Last thing is that this is a lifelong goal. Since I was 5 years old, I said I wanted to be a doctor. I thought I was going to be a pediatrician. My senior year in college, I did a year-long internship where I learned medicine was not for me. When I threw up, I realized medicine was not for me. Dr. Yinks, she didn't know I was going to say this, who's sitting here, was the director of bilingual education for the Reading School District back then. My sister was a para for the district. Dr. Yinks traveled as far as Puerto Rico to be able to find bilingual chemistry teachers. My sister said, my brother is just finishing a degree in chemistry. So I interviewed with her. Back then, cell phones didn't exist, dating myself. We went to Red Lobster after the interview. When I came back home, the light was blinking on the answering machine. It was the school district offered me the position to become a teacher. And that's how I became involved with teaching. And since then, I've looked to follow in her footsteps and appreciate all the support that she's given me. But I knew that I still wanted to be a doctor, but now a doctor in education. I fulfilled the educational requirements. This is a dream come true for me to be your next superintendent. I am the assistant superintendent. Let's clarify that. I am not the superintendent. I was not offered. Dr. Jennifer Murray is the superintendent of schools of the Reading School District. She's doing a wonderful job and has many years left in her contract and many years left in education. I feel ready, and she and I had a conversation that she doesn't want to see me leave, but I'm ready for this position. And I'm ready to move into that seat. But she understands and supports that the transition should this be finalized. And then my mission or my vision really is to be able to build a community of caring and hardworking learners. If we're able to be able to help kids be empathetic and learn the value of hard work, which I learned from my mother, she only went to school to 8th grade. And I say that proudly because with only an 8th grade education, she worked so hard that she was able to buy a house. She was able to raise 5 kids, all of us successful in our own way. So if I'm able to create a culture where we are showing kids to care and showing kids to work hard, we will be successful.
Now, you spent a lot of time, this next question is about visibility, and talked a lot about how you are going to be visible. If there's anything else you'd like to add, please add it. But also, what measures will you do to engage the community and address community concerns that has brought attention?
So I mentioned, and some of you hopefully have seen me already, I've started to make my rounds. I want to make sure I'm clear that it's not just for sports. I'm a big guy, but I'm not that athletic. Other than Mr. Davis, I'll be helping him with tennis. I do play tennis pretty well. But I'll also be at the extracurriculars that include the arts and the academics. I'm looking forward to seeing, I believe you have a debate club or debate team. So I'll be looking forward to being seen by students and staff in those venues as well. In addition to the presence in the community, those open forums will be for community. So it will be a way for community to bring issues to my attention. I don't hide behind my phone. So once I have a work phone, community will have. Now, I know that means it's going to blow up. I may not be able to pick up a call, but I know how to multitask like the best of us. And I will be able to communicate either a text and then follow up later. So I would make myself available to community in that way. Our communications platforms have a great opportunity for growth. That's my nice way of saying that we've got some work to do with how we have two-way interaction. There is a platform out there that the district is implementing. I'm implementing in the Reading School District. It's called Let's Talk. I invite you to take a look at that. It becomes a way for parents and community to be able to communicate directly with us. The community will have a channel to be able to very easily go on our website and have a chat with my office and send me messages directly without trying to figure out what's the number that I call and what's the extension. They just go to our website, they're able to click on a link and get a message that will be routed to me.
Thank you. As superintendent, what are your top priorities? Talked a little bit about it in previous questions. And how would you incorporate input from teachers, staff, and students into your decision process? You talked a little bit, but would you like to add?
So I talked about this, so I'm just going to highlight there are 3 priorities, and that's pursuit of academic excellence. That is the core of what we're in business for, and that is what I'm going to be addressing right away. Second, be financial stability. We need to figure out how we bring in additional dollars to provide the resources to be able to do the work that we are trying to do, and also some of the growth things that I'm hoping to accomplish. Safety. This isn't anything that's particular to Southeast Elko. I experienced it firsthand myself at the Reading School District. Physical, emotional, mental safety of students and staff is critical. So I will, and think this district has done an excellent job with some of the things that they've done. But a lot of it is not public information for the right reason. I look forward to learning more and making sure that some of the things that I've learned in the Reading School District are implemented here. I already shared how we would have shared leadership responsibility between the 2 committees, the Social Emotional Leadership Group and the Knights Academic Advisory Council.
Thank you. What is your philosophy on delegating authority and holding individuals accountable?
So whoever asked this question, thank you. This was also questioned during the search. And my philosophy is that in order for you to have authority, you really need to first be delegated responsibility. And as superintendent, if I ask anybody on my team to do something, it should be accompanied with authority. It would then be my responsibility if someone's not meeting expectations just because they have the responsibility and the authority. Doesn't mean that they're vacant or void of accountability. And it's important that we have conversations around accountability. What we do is because of taxpayer dollars, but we are accountable to the public. And that's every single one of us in this room, self-included.
Do you have plans to relocate the Southeast Elko School District now that you will be named?
The answer is yes, and I already started looking. Actually, part of the reason why we were right before is because we drove by a house that my sister-in-law, who's a realtor in Jersey, wanted me to check out. So the answer is yes. As soon as I can sell my house in Reading and Berks County, I will be buying a house here. If everything works out well, it should be parallel to when I start.
So and you talked a little bit about this, some of your answers, but what is your plan to attract, promote, and top educators to the South Delco School District, considering the teacher shortage in our nation and in Pennsylvania? And what is your plan to attract and diverse staff?
So first is retention. We need to figure out how do we create the environment at South Delco to keep the wonderful teachers we have and ask them to serve as ambassadors to help recruit. Teachers know teachers, but first they need to be willing and able to speak well of our district. So it's important that we take care of our people first. Simultaneously, we need to do some recruitment. We can't start another school year with any kind of large vacancy numbers. So there are a number of different things that I would do. So long term, though, there's this crazy idea that I'm looking forward to making happen, whether it's Reading or here. And it's not a new idea. It's something that I'm stealing from practices that are happening across the country. And that's teaming up with government, state level, county level, local level, with nonprofits and with funders to figure out housing. If we're able to recruit people from far away, and there's a strategy from recruiting people from far away to be able to diversify our teachers by working with not only the 2 HBCUs in the state, but HBCUs across the country. But if we're going to try to attract people, one of the things that it becomes an obstacle is housing, especially if you're in an area where there's limited housing or very expensive housing. So a long-term project will be to figure out how do we create a housing option to teachers that we recruit here. But then the other options include, like I already said, connecting to the HBCUs, connecting with every teacher preparation program that's within a 60-mile radius, making the assumption that that's not done. So if it's done, I apologize. If it's not, we will identify every single teacher preparation program, and we will figure out how we become the destination of choice for student teachers in those places. We will figure out, and my current district has figured this out, how do we offer early? So teachers are doing student teaching in your rooms. They're doing a really good job. How do we offer a substitute position, letting them know that once they have their license, then they have a position waiting for them? So getting ahead of the other people that are trying to recruit those individuals. And then the last piece, and I am going to take more than a minute on this, is growing our own. There is a program in my district that I help bring. It's called READ. It is using high school students that are trained on phonics instruction, something often that's just elementary teachers are the ones who know how to teach using phonics. No, it's educating, training high school students to be able then to go tutor first and second grade students who are on the bubble. Their high school students are being paid because they're acting as trained teachers. They're building a relationship with first and second grade. And we're planting the seed then with the high school students to potentially become a teacher in the future. We've partnered with the local community college to have them take early learning classes during the summer where we pay for them. In addition to paying for the classes, they're earning college credits. And in addition to that, they're being paid a stipend because our kids need to work and often have to bring money to the homes to be able to help out, whether it's for their own clothing or for whatever else, our kids need to work. So it's an idealistic idea to think that we can engage kids that way but not compensate. It's working. We have over 100 kids who are interested in our profession. And these kids look like our students because they are our students. And we're making a commitment to them that if they go finish their 40 degrees, when they come back, there'll be a position for them. So I will be looking to replicate this. The executive director of READ Alliance, it's in New York. It's someone who I used to work for when I was at the Committee for Hispanic Children and Families. She's brought the model to the Reading School District. And now we're having conversations with the superintendent, with the Secretary of Education, figure out how we grow this across the state. She and I have had conversations of, regardless of what you do with Dr. Ramin, I want to figure out how we bring it here.
Thank you. Describe your approach to manage relationships.
So proactively and meeting frequently, centering conversations on what's the best decision that makes sense for kids, respecting the CBA language and rules, But at the end of the day, we are all here, regardless of which union group you're part of. We're here to serve kids. So conversations are centered about what's the best decision for students and making sure that there is this open dialogue, being proactive, not only meeting when there needs to be a labor management meeting to discuss a dispute, but literally coming together and having conversations on an ongoing regular basis.
So what program and or strategy will you implement the Southeast Delco School District to address bullying, cyberbullying, conflict resolution, and violent behaviors within schools and on social media? How do you plan really on keeping students and staff safe? And what role, when you talk a little bit about this, does social emotional learning and mental health services play in providing these types of supports?
So one of the 9 departments that I run is Safe Schools, is how we've termed it at my district. We have a pretty large team, which includes a director, 5 school police officers that report directly to me, and about 64 safe school officers. Now remember, it's 23 buildings. We don't have safe school officers in elementary schools, but we have them in our middle school and high school. And it's important to have those numbers because the weapon scanners, which I won't talk too much about it here in this public forum, but we too have the very same weapon scanners, which have incredible capacity to do some good things to be able to keep us safe. So I want to applaud some of those efforts related to the physical safety of the district. I would need to, once I'm inside, be able to learn to make sure that they're available and they're put into place in all of our buildings. Social emotional learning is critical, especially post-pandemic. So my dissertation was on the affective domain of learning and how teacher interactions impact students' motivation to learn science. Breaking it down, really, it's how do I build a relationship and how do I help kids, young people, deal with emotions? So that is critical, a critical skill that I was gifted and I feel like I'm capable of doing naturally. My advisor and I wanted to figure out how do I put that in a bottle so I can give to other teachers who do not have that instinctive nature to be able to create those bonds. SEL helps teachers be able to build those relationships. So it's absolutely critical that every single one of us are trained, skilled, and regularly using SEL in our classrooms. So that's my answer for this. Really, I need to know what you're doing because I think you're already doing lots of great things. I just want to make sure that it's consistent across the board. The other piece that wasn't clear to me is the use of PBIS and how in my district, a challenge is that depending who the principal is, depending which model they're using for PBIS. And that makes it very difficult when we have a very transient population that's going from one building to the other. So I would hope that we are all consistently in this district using a standard curriculum for PBIS. And then the other piece that's really, really important, we do build relationships and we do have to have conversations with young people about when they don't follow the rules and they're creating potential harm to the district or to other students and staff. But there's also a student code of conduct, and young people have to be educated on being responsible. And when there are infractions, we need to go to that student code of conduct and remind them of what that accountability means. But it's important that we are proactive in having conversations with parents about what's in that book, because many of them don't know until it's too late. So that's a two-way street, but it's another resource that we would have to make sure we have safe environments.
Thank you. What measures would you want to see in our district to combat drug use, including vaping and smoking on school grounds?
So there's technology out there that can help identify contraband before it even gets into the buildings. So there would be conversations I would have to see how feasible it would be to be able to build those in. There are instruments that we can put in bathrooms, and I hear, they're damaged, but there's ways to be able to determine who damaged them because we can have cameras that are posted in the hallways outside to see who was the last person to go in and who the last person to come out. And that's the physical side. Then there's the educational side that I think is just as important. It's not just having all this technology, but it's having conversations with young people about the dangers of drugs, whether it's to themselves or to their peers. Once we identify young people or individuals who are unfortunately either using or dealing drugs, I think it's our responsibility to connect them to the right resources. And that shouldn't just be individual resources like individual counseling. But when there's an issue related to drugs, that's a family issue.
So we need to make sure that we're willing to extend and make the connection not only for the student that's in our building, for the families that they're going to, and connecting them to services. And similarly, I believe in this holistic approach where we have the technology, the tools, the emotional, the learning, but there's consequences. If an individual is bringing drugs into the school with the intention to sell, there are consequences that we need to make sure that we follow through so that it's clear to people that won't be tolerated, that this is a safe haven for our kids. And bringing drugs to that level is not something that would be allowed.
Sometimes disputes occur between students from different boroughs within the Southeast Delco School District. What things do you think you can bring to our students that would foster and strengthen their relationships and avoid physical interactions, altercations?
So I understand that this district is composed of a number of different distinct communities, but we're one district. We're all Knights. It's important that we understand and encourage our young people to understand that we are all Knights, no matter which different town or borough you're coming from. So there's different things that we can do as a district to be able to create that definition of being a Knight. For an example, my current district, all of our students are allowed using their ID to enter any sports event for free. And we use that as a PBIS incentive in hopes of being able to build support no matter which corner of the city of Reading, and in this case, which corner of Southeast Delco you would be attending. The program that we have with Reed, we have one high school, just similar to here, but that high school is serving right now 7 of the 13 elementary schools. It's creating relationships with kids from across town, and then creating parents to understand and be able to support the benefits of having these relationships. Parents play a key role in being able to squall and decrease this division that can exist. So one of the key strategies, and I'm responsible for the diversity, for the equity department, and one of the things that falls into there is parent engagement. We have a family academy where we bring parents from different corners of the district together for learning. I would do the same thing here. It's important for parents from different communities to be able to come together on a regular basis, both in their individual buildings, but also as the district, so that they can help reinforce this idea. And intramurals, so I was not able to see, had difficulty finding schedules for intramural sports. So I would like to know I would like to learn if there are intramural programs and figure out how do we bring the four first through 8 building together, whether it's for an elementary field day or whether it's for parent barbecue cook-off, where there'll be a trophy that gets brought up to the high school. Again, keeping them thinking that this is to be with us unified to all be Knights.
Thank you. A lot of information, very informative. I'm going to turn it over to you for closing remarks.
Felt like I was doing some speed talking here. But again, I want to reiterate at the core who I am. I am someone that considers himself a servant leader. I will not normally come in with a suit. I will roll up my sleeve and help the custodian mom. I am Serve Safe certified. Food service is one of my other departments. So at times you'll see me with a hairnet or a cap on. If we're short a cafeteria person, to make sure kids are served on time. But I also represent you alongside of the mayor or the Secretary of Education. I am able to switch in a minute. But my job is to help serve and protect the people that are in this district. And I will do that proudly. I would look forward to being part of the Night Pride Southeast Delco community. So with that, I want to say thank you to the board for a really great interview process. It felt like I was going back through another dissertation defense, but I know so much about this district that I can't wait to start my first day. Thank you, everybody.